Hey, what's going on, Valoramous Vanguards? In today's video, I want to discuss the various types of transitions that you could utilize as a DJ in order to enhance your sets. So in order to get into this tutorial, I like to discuss the three types of mixing that you must master as a DJ in order to effectively utilize these types of transitions. So the first type is beat matching, the second type is phrase matching, and the third type is key matching or key mixing. If you can incorporate all three of these strategies to mix music effectively, then you'll be able to more adequately and effectively employ these transition techniques. So the first transition we're going to get into is going to be the standard blended transition, where you are blending two tracks together for 4, 8, or 16 bars, sometimes 32, but generally 4, 8, or 16 bars. And you're going to use the EQ. So it's a blended, I call it the blended EQ transition, and I'm going to show you what this looks like, but you are effectively slowly bringing the volume of the incoming track with no low frequencies, and then as they're mixing about halfway through the mix, which is halfway of 4 bars or 8 bars or 16 bars, you're going to reverse the EQs, so you're basically reversing the bass lines, bringing in the low frequencies on the incoming song, removing them in the outgoing song, and then on the last half of the track, you can then slowly lower the volume with both the track channel fader and the trim or volume knobs at the top of the individual tracks on the mixer itself. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. Okay, so this is the outgoing song, this is the incoming song. So you can hear this. Now what we're going to do is, we have all the frequencies in the mix in the outgoing song, we have no low frequencies in the incoming song. So you're going to play this song in time, so you must know beat mixing and phrase mixing before you can begin this. Okay, so now we're going to start. Bam. Now we're going to swap the bass lines. Lower the volume. There's your transition. Now you also need to get the volume right. So the volume was a little bit off there, but you'll practice this. You're going to be moving 2 low EQ knobs. You might be moving 2 trim knobs and then 2 track faders as well. So the transition is effectively 6 knobs. It could be a bit more. You're also going to need to adjust the tempo if you didn't start the track on time. But this is the most basic transition to master. It's the blended EQ transition. But practice this, get this right, and then you can go to more advanced techniques. Now the second technique that I'm going to describe is going to be a scratch in, but it includes a mix. So scratching is a very intermediate, if not advanced technique for mixing music, especially if you're doing more advanced scratches such as the Joe Cooley scratch, flares, or crabs. That's definitely advanced, but we're just going to be doing basic baby scratches, and you're going to be dropping that scratch on the one beat and then still overlapping the track. So this is when you start to use maybe 2 techniques. So you're using the blended EQ transition plus a scratch. So let's try this. Now for this, you're going to have low frequencies on the incoming track, and then you're going to make that transition a bit quicker. Okay, so we already have both low frequencies in the mix, so we're going to reduce the low EQs on the outgoing song. Here we go. I can't find a reason why. Okay, so that'll take some practice, but you're effectively dropping that scratch on the one beat. Now, another variation is if the song is extremely memorable and noticeable from like that very first beat, you could drop this track on the 1. And you probably know some tracks out there, I'm not going to name names, but there's some tracks out there that are instantly recognizable if you drop on the 1, and the crowd will appreciate it because they will be extremely surprised and shocked, and it's going to amplify the energy of the event. So I'm gonna do this by dropping the track on the 1, and it's gonna be a cut over. You're gonna cut your Magvel crossfader over as you drop that track on the 1. So here it goes. Alright, so you're gonna scratch a few times and then drop it on the 1, but at the same time you're gonna cut over. So it's a memorable track and you have the volumes with a trim knob set appropriately and you drop from the 1, bam, you have just surprised the audience. So that's the third transition technique that you could master as a DJ. Now, other techniques that I like to use are either echo outs and you can use this either in conjunction with scratching and the blended EQ transitions, or you could use it, say you're in a bind and the crowd does not enjoy the current track you're playing, you need to quickly get out of something. You could use either a backspin or an echo out effect, and then bam, start the next track, preferably on that one beat. I'll show you both effects. These are on pad effects. I have a backspin and then also an echo. Okay, so first we'll do a backspin. And then start the next track. So that's that backspin. The backspin, if you have it set the way I have it set, it's going to rotate for 4 beats or 1 bar, and then at the end of that rotation, then you can start the next track. And ideally, that is a 1 beat. That way, you keep the people in time with the music, although not everyone may be affected by it the way you would be affected by it as a DJ. So that's the backspin. Now we're going to do the echo out, and you can use these effects during the blended transition, and that's when it becomes a bit more intermediate and advanced as a DJ, is when you start incorporating multiple of these transitions during one transition. It actually becomes very fun because then you're doing several things in a short time span, and it can be like a game for you as a DJ. So let's do the echo out. I'll play some part of the vocals, that way the echo out effect is better with vocals. So we're gonna go to a vocal section and then I'll echo out on a particular vocal. The pain when the rain don't stop. Jump in the range but it still feel cold. So I just echoed out on the word cold, 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 cold. And then you can start the next track. So that's particularly useful if you're in a bind and you need to quickly get out of a track that the audience is not enjoying at that moment, and then you can quickly transition to the next song. So we've covered the blended EQ transition. We've covered scratching, both a blend and then also dropping on the 1. And now we've covered backspins and echoes. Now, other transitions or other parts of the transition that you should do, this is sort of miscellaneous, but use your sound color effects, your beat effects, and even your pad effects to cover these transitions. So you could use reverbs, delays, and echoes to enhance the transitions, best done with the blended, but I'm going to show you an example of this. Okay, so we're coming in. If I just apply this to one track, bam. So you could apply those effects to both or just one, depending on your preferences. If you apply it to the master, it'll sound like this. That was applied just to the outgoing track. Okay, apply it on the master, applying a reverb and a filter. And you have to fade out the volume too. I can't find a reason why. And a very underappreciated form of transition is actually just simple volume. It's actually just leveling in general. Very undervalued, underestimated, both as a producer and as a DJ. But if you can get your leveling right, that is more than half the battle in both skill sets and both disciplines. Because when you're transitioning from one song to the next, you want the volumes to be at a very, very similar, if not the same level. That way you're not shocking the audience. And when I was first playing live, I would have some transitions where the incoming song would either be much louder or much quieter, and it would shock the audience a little bit. They would become accustomed to it for a few seconds, but this is when you want to be much more tight with your transitions, both with EQ and with volume and leveling. That way you're moving the audience through this musical journey where stuff is happening and there's changes occurring in the music, but they don't really know what's happening or when it's going to happen or that it's even happened. It should be a surprise and not a shock. When it's a shock, you're going to know because you may scratch and it's too loud, and then the audience is startled a little bit. They don't really know what happened because they're not a DJ. They may not have a musical background, but employing all these various transitions and effects will help you as a DJ. So let's recap. We have the blended transition. We have the scratching, both on the one beat and cutting over, or a blended transition. We have the echo out and the backspin effect, which you could do with jog fills as well. I do that too if I'm gonna, and then you go into the next track, but that's usually if you're doing a blend and transition, you could just do that at the very end of that 4, 8, or 16 bars. And then you have the other effects, sound color effects, beat effects, pad effects. One part of the pad effects that I like is, I like these rolls. You can do these rolls. That's a quarter beat, or quarter bar, half bar. A little bit better with vocals, I think. So with vocals, here you go. And that's actually 8. So you have half, quarter, and then 8. And there's the echo out, and then you can go to the next song. So master these various transitions, experiment, try to conduct multiple of these effects and these transitions during a transition from one song to the next song, and become that much better of a DJ. Now, if you want to learn more about either DJ transitions or various effects, sound color effects, beat effects, then click on this video right here.
3, 2, 1, lose it. Let's get elevated.